calls.
Let's get the calls.
Hey, we got Mark in Bristol, Connecticut. How are you?
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
How you guys doing? Matt, Martin, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Good.
I'll actually tell you guys I'm a huge fan of the show, Matt. I just caught one of your debates again on, seeing the debate. You said there were humans are basically, like, very self-centered, very egocentric about our belief in God. And actually, I thought it was an awesome debate.
Yep. Which debate was that?
It was a debate where you and JD, I think his name is JD...
JT Everhard. Yeah, that was at the North Texas Secular Student Alliance Conference. JT and I did a team debate. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I've been following your show on YouTube for a while now, and I think it's an awesome show. I do believe in God. I do believe in a God, and but I call myself post-denominational.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I know you guys may have heard some of this stuff before. It might sound kind of new age and stuff, and I know, but my working hypothesis on the whole overall is, in a lot of ways, atheists are the best friends that Christians have.
Okay.
They might disagree. But
why is that?
Well, you got to figure, you know, I mean, I take a very Jungian approach. I take a very Jungian approach to my belief system, which is I believe that the whole overall of humanity moves as like a whole, and sometimes we have to pull ourselves. Sometimes parts of that humanity kicking and screaming to evolve forward. Mm-hmm. So what you're really making these Christians do is define what they call God, you know, and in a lot of ways you're pointing out the glaring flaws in their belief system, you know. Like in a lot of ways, Matt, you're right. The Old Testament is exceedingly immoral in a lot of things. I heard you ask somebody one time that if you were supposed to go to hell, because of like violations from the Old Testament, would this person be okay with it? And as I'm listening to the person going, oh well, you know, I'm waffling. Well, she said, well, you know, God says it's okay, then I guess it's okay. I'm like, no. If you were to go to hell, Matt, if they said you know, the Christians would say that you go to hell, I'd be like, no. You see, I'd fight for you.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
I'm kind of opposed to that too.
Well, you know, it's just one of those kind of things where, and this is the thing too, I think Christians too often forget too that like the Bible's rich in stories of actually like Moses or whatever standing up to God and going, no. You know, like say for instance when he was going to kill all the the Hebrews in the desert after they worshiped the idol, and Moses actually got pissed at God and said, wait a minute, you made me go through all this shit that I went through to get the Hebrews out of Egypt, and now you're going to kill them in the desert. So he actually changed God's mind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
I'm just wondering. I hate to do this because you're such, you know, a nice guy, fan of the show, making points. Why do you believe in a God, and what kind of God do you believe in?
Well, this is why I call it my hypothesis, Matt. I believe in a creator, yes, but I base it upon, and I know that you wholly disagree with this, but upon what I would call peripheral evidence. You know, based upon the subjective experiences of what everybody else is, not everybody else, but I mean.
I find it interesting that you call it a hypothesis, because a hypothesis is a proposition, and we don't believe hypotheses.
I know you don't. That's why I'm calling it a hypothesis. See, the thing is, Matt.
No.
You're not understanding what he's.
You're not saying. You're calling it a hypothesis, and you're saying you believe it, and.
Yes.
And that's not the point at which belief is established. Hypothesis is a proposition. Belief is established afterwards.
Okay, I'm sorry, Matt. The only reason why I was calling it my hypothesis was because I was trying to be fair. Because I've heard a lot of people, they throw around theory all the time. And theory, and the problem with people's idea of what they think theory is they accept the truth when a lot of the times, I mean, like say the theory of evolution, the Big Bang Theory, that is scientifically proven to be true, you know.
Sure.
And it is a theory.
I don't object to you saying that you have a God hypothesis. There are tons of God hypotheses.
Right.
My objection is to saying that it's a hypothesis and you believe it because.
I don't mean to sound self-contradictory, man. I'm not. My theory is what I believe in God, but like I said, I base it upon, as I said, it's peripheral. It's from, you know, what I've studied, what I read, what my personal experiences are. It's not like, you know, like you said, it's not like this supreme deity that's come down and dinged me on the forehead and said, you know, you are aware now. It's also hope too, Matt. You know, like you said, you touch upon some basic things with the Atheist Experience, where, you know, part of us is our fear.
It sounds to me, Mark, like you, just based on what you're describing, it's like you have had experiences, things you've read, things you've observed, whatever. But it seems to me, just based on what you're describing, if I were in your shoes, the best that I would be able to say would not be that I do believe in a God, but and then give whatever justifications for that. All I would be able to say would be like, okay, I can see that there are some scenarios in which a God might be plausible as an explanation, but I would not be at that point ready to yet say, and that's what I believe. I would only be able to say, yeah, you see what I'm saying? So,
very much so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're trying to kind of, you're putting the cart before the horse, and the way certain things are ordered.
We've talked about deism before, and there are individuals who, I think maybe Dawkins even called deism sexed up atheism.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was pantheism that was sexed up.
Pantheism
was sexed up atheism. And I've talked to and dealt with deists before, primarily at free thought conventions. At free thought conventions, you have atheists, agnostics, and you also have a deist contingent. And you're obviously you're going to believe whatever you're convinced of.
Right.
The thing that I've never found a deist who can explain why they're actually convinced of this, and without trying to belittle what anybody's position is, in every single time that I've had these conversations with the deist, it's either come to find out that they don't actually believe, or that they're so enamored of an idea of God that they're not willing to let that last bastion of it go. Because most of them would believe in a creative God, a creator God who doesn't interact with reality in any way. I don't know if that's the kind.
No, actually, this is the thing. To add a little caveat, Matt. I've heard you actually say that the thing is, and this is the thing that I think is actually very apropos. It's actually excellent about the atheists, at least from what I've come to understand about the atheist position. You say that a person hasn't presented evidence for a proof of God, which is, so you reject the evidence, which I think is exactly what I mean. You reserve deciding whether or not you think there's a God until someone offers proof. That's kind of my point. I would call that kind of a person a seeker or a question, because you haven't rejected the idea outright of a God. You said that no proof exists that, or at least to this date, that one does exist. And until proof does actually exist, you're going to reserve judgment, which is it's kind of what I mean. It's like, say, for instance, and I know that you might accuse me of cross-cultural thinking too, but say, for instance, Taoism. With Chinese Taoism, one of the maxims in Taoism is, if you can name the Tao, you don't know the Tao, which means that...
Which is a deepity. I mean, let's be honest here. Let's be honest. That's a deepity. That's what Dan Dennett would call a deepity. To the extent that it's true, it's trivial, and to the extent that it's meaningful, I got it backwards. To the extent that it is significant in its meaning, it's not true, and to the extent that it's true, it's trivial. Oh, it's sophistry. I mean, what does that mean? If you to claim that you know the Tao, you don't know the Tao.
What it means is see, the thing is, a lot of the times when people define God, what they do is they say they define God in a particular way. They think God is a particular thing. Well, they put themselves inside of a fence, and all that they have to do now is defend that position. Anything that's on the outside of it is not what they believe God is, and anything that's on the inside of it is what they believe God is. My point is, that's like it's like a deadening concept. It takes the very dynamic learning movement, evolutionary concept out of it. For Taoists, the idea of saying that if you can name the Tao, you don't know the Tao, is putting the student or the person who's actually trying to learn in a perpetual state of pushing themselves to try and understand what they want to define. This is why I say in a lot of ways, the atheists are the best friends that Christians have.
Yeah, and let's get back to that, just so that we're not because we're starting to kind of, this is dragging on a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
just getting back to the original point that the questions presented to our screeners, which is that, to the extent that we are helping Christians understand and think about their beliefs, perhaps in a way that they've never had to do before, I'm great with that. I think that's awesome. Now, and it is their choice whether or not they think about their beliefs and decide to retain their beliefs or question them. But at least they are no longer believing unquestioningly, which is what religion wants them to do. So if that's a service we're providing Christians, I'm really cool with it. I think that's great.
Of any stripe, but not just Christians, but on this subject of the idea of believing something that's not defined
Right.
That is a complete absurdity. I don't know how anybody could claim to believe something that they don't understand, comprehend, and haven't labeled in some way. To me, it sounds entirely dishonest. It's like the people who want to claim that that they're a Christian and a skeptic, or a religious person and a skeptic, and you can be both. You can be both of these, but you can't be truly skeptical about your religious claims and maintain them.
Man, I'm not trying to be dishonest.
No.
No, he's talking in general
I'm talking
terms.
in the general sense. You can't do that and actually maintain those religious beliefs, because if you could, then you could make a demonstration of their truth, which is what skepticism demands. And some of them are dishonestly saying, well, my beliefs don't make any testable claims, and therefore skepticism has nothing to say about my beliefs. And that's false. What skepticism would say about claims that are untestable is that by virtue of being untestable, you cannot possibly have sufficient evidence to justify belief, and therefore you should not.
I want you to show enough to realize you guys go over a lot of these different things, and I'm not pushing anything on anyone. It's my own individual belief. I mean, in a lot of ways,
I understand you're not pushing.
I've heard you guys say that if a person believes in a God, that's okay, as long as they're not pushing it on anyone else. Or...
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
Sorry. I understand that you're not pushing. I applaud you all day long for not pushing your beliefs. But to say that if somebody believes something, it's okay just if they're not pushing it on to other people is false. It matters whether or not their belief is actually true, because every false belief that you put into your head means that you are on a road to potentially believing more false things. If you are believing in a God for bad reasons and you don't think that that can affect other decisions that you make,
but you don't even know the reasons why I believe in a God, and you're assuming it's for bad reasons.
Well, I asked you what the reasons were, and you didn't offer any. But I'm going. I'm going.
Peripheral, but see, the thing is, say for instance, in correlation to how I live my life. Now, you guys say, for instance, as atheists, that you're for, like, say for instance, helping people and say for helping the homeless and feeding the homeless, as you said, and stuff. And I said I believe in a very Jungian approach that we all as a humanity move together. You know. So my belief in a God ties completely into the idea that we as a humanity move together. We have to help each other along. We have to bolster each other.
How is the God?
Accepting the Lord Jesus Christ or Muhammad or whatever.
How is the God belief relevant?
Evolutionary level.
I mean, why does how is the God belief? You know, how does that have utility there? You know, I mean, why is that a necessary ingredient to moving humanity forward?
It's something that you don't necessarily believe in. We're ultimately all going to end up in the same place. But, you know, as what I believe. You know? I mean, say, for instance, a Jewish mystical belief is that the world will not end. I know that's completely outside of what you guys, you know.
It's outside of science.
Until the last human.
The world's going to end. I got news for you.
Yeah, someday it will happen.
We're all supposed to evolve upward together, you know.
Well, we're not going to. I guess we're not going to get anywhere, because I'm baffled at this kind of this line of thought. Because beliefs matter, and if your beliefs aren't true, it doesn't matter how much good you can find in them or how much benefit you can draw from them. It matters whether or not they're true. There's nothing about a God belief that is required in order to do good. So when you talk,
I never said that.
I know.
No, but the implication was that this is where you draw this from, and that this is a good thing. And my point is that you can draw this without the false claims.
Right, and I never said that you couldn't. I just called and tell you guys what I believe. You know,
I understand. And what you're saying, though, is that this extra baggage of claims that are not demonstrably true isn't a bad thing. And that's the part I don't get.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
you don't think that there's anything wrong with having false beliefs? You don't think that your beliefs have impact on your other beliefs?
Yeah, they do, but thus far they've served me well, and I haven't hurt anyone. Like, you guys haven't gone out and murdered anyone or raped anybody, or, you know.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that sort of a thing. It's just, you know, what from.
Here, let me give you the
drawing
easy
your
example.
information?
Let me give you the easy example. Every deist I've ever talked to has come up with this first cause. They've bought into the first cause argument, which is flawed. And this has led them to the conclusion that a God is the most reasonable explanation for the origin of the universe.
I know that. I heard your other argument for a minute. I've watched the show for a while.
Yes, but the other people that are listening to this conversation haven't.
Oh, okay, all right.
This is the trend. And so for the deists that I run into, who say that they believe this for this reason, there is a consequence to this false belief, and that is they are accepting a fallacy. Your brain is not, beliefs don't live in a vacuum. We both
I know.
we both agree that they impact other beliefs, but you seem to be okay with having a belief that is not demonstrably true, and that's the part that's getting to me.